Welcome back to my channel, Life with Everyday Haley. If you're new here, welcome. Super glad you found my channel. Super happy to have you along for the ride. If you have noticed, we are on a fertility journey. Most of my videos are related to my fertility journey and trying to start a family. And just so much that I've learned along the way. We've built a beautiful community, and I love connecting with people, answering questions, and just hoping that my videos can bring you some peace and clarity in your journey. And I'm happy to say that this video today is a great video, a really important topic that I want to share with you guys about pregnancy and dealing with the struggles of early pregnancy symptoms in the first trimester, and just getting through that first trimester, and some things that I have noticed have helped me, some products I have found. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through what my first trimester has been like. And I'm about to come out of it, so I felt comfortable sharing really how it went for me. And then hopefully it will help you. So before we get started, just wanted to remind you, please like this video and follow me on my journey. Would love to have you as a subscriber, and would encourage you to stop and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, where I share a lot of fun items and videos as well. And Like to Know It. On Like to Know It, you'll find all of these products I'm going to show you today, as well as tons of baby items and mom items that I have purchased and liked, and a lot of my home decor and decorating items. So I have everything linked for you, and would love to follow along with you on my journey. All right, so I found out I was pregnant very early. As you know, that I have had multiple pregnancy losses. So with my protocol, with my reproductive immunologist, it was a matter of, you got to know as soon as you're pregnant, we got to follow you right away. And so that's how my journey went. So I actually found out that I was pregnant around 7 or 8 days past ovulation. I started having early pregnancy symptoms that week after I ovulated. And I'm the kind of person that just kind of knows that they're pregnant before they test. You might think I'm crazy. I'm very in tune with my body. I was watching things very closely because we were really actively trying to conceive. And I was on a conception protocol with my reproductive immunologist. So I started cramping as early as about 3 or 4 DPO. I will say that I did start vaginal progesterone suppositories 3 days past ovulation. That was part of my fertility protocol to help me support my pregnancy and help that uterine lining. That is a very common thing that women that have had recurrent pregnancy loss are put on to help them in their future pregnancies. It can really make a difference and just support the pregnancy. I will say, if your pregnancy is not healthy, progesterone is not going to eliminate you having a loss. However, if you struggle with non-sufficient progesterone support to support your pregnancy, it can really help. And there's just a lot of benefits to progesterone. So it's like, it's not going to hurt anything. Why not do it? So I'm saying this to say, the cramping and stuff that I started feeling as early as like when I started the suppositories may have just been the suppositories. It could have been a symptom of that, or it could have been because I literally was becoming pregnant and I was going through the process of fertilization and implantation. So I started cramping super early. So I knew it either had to be pregnancy or the progesterone because I also cramped in my other 2 pregnancies the same way, very early. So I'm just one of those girls that cramps really early in pregnancy. That's my first symptom of pregnancy, is cramping, because it was too early for me to ovulate, too early for me to get my cycle. So I knew it had to be pregnancy or the progesterone. So I just kind of waited because it was too early to test. And then around 6 or 7 DPO, I just had a really bad headache. And I just thought, something just feels off a little bit. Just felt kind of sick, a little just off. And so I came home that night and I took a test, and it was faintly positive. And so I believe that was the earliest that it tested positive, was about 7 or 8 DPO. I don't know which day. And so from that point on, I really just had cramping. every day I would just have some cramping. And that was, and tiredness. Tiredness in the beginning, had some feelings of tiredness, but it then again was on the progesterone. Um, and so it could have been either one. So the first few weeks of my pregnancy, really the only true symptom I had was cramping. And that scared me because cramping is also associated with miscarriage. But I just want to normalize that, like, cramping is super, super common in early pregnancy. I had so much cramping, I would have bet money that my period was going to start, but it never did. And I never, like, I didn't have any spotting. And so it was literally just cramping. And why you cramp in early pregnancy is because your uterus is expanding so rapidly. Implantation is happening. A lot of connections are occurring, and it's just a lot on your uterus. So if you cramp a lot between week like 4 to 6, just know that's really, really common. And I think it really alarms people. But it was totally normal for me. And then honestly, I kind of felt like I was going to have an uneventful pregnancy. I kind of got worried because I didn't have a ton of other symptoms. But what I found in this pregnancy was the symptoms really came later for me, not so much so early on. So I think around the time the cramping started kicking up, my boobs started getting sore. So that's a consistent symptom that I usually have in all my pregnancies, is sore breasts. So the breasts got pretty sore and have continued to stay pretty sore throughout the entire time. I am currently 12 weeks and 1 day pregnant filming this video. So I'm almost out of my first trimester, so I can really tell you a really good overview of like day 1 to the end of the first trimester. So yeah, the sore boobs have just kind of stayed around. They'll just kind of hang out. But the reason you have sore breasts is due to your hormones rising so much. Your estrogen is really high, it's just continuing to rise, and your progesterone is also elevated, but estrogen is really, really high. So that's kind of how pregnancy started. It was uneventful, but a lot of cramping. I look back and I kind of wonder if my cramping was due to what I'm about to share with you, but I don't know. So around 5 weeks, I started having, like, one day, a lot of cramping. And I kind of wondered, like, is something wrong? But then I was like, you've been cramping so much. But then I went to the restroom and I started having a little bit of spotting. And it scared me so bad. I had a really hard weekend because I had had 2 losses in the past very early, and I thought, am I going to lose this pregnancy also? And I just spiraled. It was awful. I was crying. I was inconsolable. And it was just a little bit of spotting, like little drops of spotting, but that can mean so much to somebody who's had losses. But luckily I had an ultrasound on Monday, so this was like on a Saturday. And I went in and I told the doctor, I said, I've been spotting a little bit. I'm very concerned at this point. I do get weekly ultrasounds because of my journey with recurrent pregnancy loss, and my reproductive immunologist does a weekly ultrasound on me, which is super helpful. At this point, I had had one ultrasound at 4 weeks and 6 days, and we confirmed that there was a gestational sac in my uterus, but we did not see a baby yet, which we shouldn't at that point. And so I didn't know what I was walking into. Like, am I miscarrying? What's going on? So she put me on the table. I told her my concerns, and she said, well, we'll just take a look. She immediately found the baby. I was like 5 weeks and 6 days, I think, maybe, or 2 days. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 5 weeks and 6 days, I'm pretty sure, when this happened. And she immediately saw the baby. She saw the heartbeat. She's like, your baby's healthy and strong. The baby looks good. But she said, I'll tell you what's causing your spotting. You have a small subchorionic hemorrhage. So a subchorionic hemorrhage is a small tear, a bleed between the wall of the uterus and the placenta. They're very common in up to 40% of pregnancies in the first trimester, and usually they're very small and resolve on their own by the end of the first trimester. So that was a symptom that I had in the first trimester, and it did cause some cramping and bleeding, just mild spotting. Now, I'm happy to say that I followed my subchorionic hemorrhage throughout my first trimester, and we just got the news at 12 weeks that it has reabsorb. So they told me it'll probably reabsorb as your pregnancy grows and develops. And it'll probably be gone by the end of the first trimester. So I'm going to do another video about my whole experience with an SCH, because I feel like it just gave me another opportunity to educate women about that, and that unique journey as well in pregnancy. So I'm going to share that on my channel too. But yeah, that was scary. We were worried. It could have gone either way. It could have like drastically gotten huge and caused major issues, or it could have just gone away. And every week we just kind of, with my weekly ultrasounds, trended it and tracked it. And it was just about 1 centimeter really every week. And then it kind of went lower, and then it just went away. So that's how it went for me. That's how it goes for most women, but they are scary, and in rare cases they can cause issues, but in most cases they're fine. My OB was never concerned about it. My reproductive immunologist was more concerned about it, but that's because he watches me really, really closely, and he doesn't want me to have any complications. And I think he believes they may be immune related. So that was another factor of the puzzle. But thankfully, it seemed like it's not a threat. And I just say, last thing I'll share about the SCH is we don't really know what causes them. They're very common in pregnancy, and they're only really a risk if they're too large, like if they're as large as your sac, your gestational sac. And so when I developed it at 5 weeks, it was really kind of scary because the baby was so small, but now the baby just kind of outgrows it, and then now it's gone. So that was my experience with SCH. So I did have a little bit of first trimester spotting. I always just reminded myself, if the spotting came, why I was having spotting. Like, I knew the reason. So that kind of gave me like a peace of mind, but it was scary. And honestly, I only had spotting a handful of times and then never any spotting. But if you do have spotting in the first trimester, don't automatically think that you are miscarrying. I think in most cases, unfortunately, if you are miscarrying, you will go on to start bleeding really heavily very quickly, and you'll know to seek help immediately that something is wrong. But if you have just like little spotting, I don't want you to jump to the worst conclusion ever. It's easy to, but it's honestly, you have to keep a level head about it. There's like a lot of reasons for spotting in the first trimester. Another reason could be cervical irritation after intercourse or transvaginal ultrasounds, or after using progesterone suppositories. Some women can have spotting, so just know that there's a lot of reasons for that. All right, so let's keep going in my pregnancy. So again, we just watched the subchorionic hemorrhage every week. I'll say around week 8 of pregnancy, things really started becoming less easy to handle. Before week 8, I really wasn't taking any medicine to help me with morning sickness or anything like that. I really was just having some cramping and sore breasts, but that was like in a lot of fatigue. I have been extremely tired from day 1. I feel like fatigue is really a huge part of pregnancy that is very underrated. Like, everybody talks about morning sickness, but they don't really talk about fatigue. The fatigue makes it where like you just can't keep going, and you just like don't know, like can't get your work done, can't get your housework done. You just like have no energy at all. And I found myself from very early on just taking a lot of naps, napping in the afternoon, which is super nice to just take a break and nap, and just being really tired and having to go to bed earlier than usual. So fatigue really was there the whole time for me, the whole first trimester. And it really got worse around week 8 or 9. And then also so did the morning sickness. So as you get further in your first trimester, you start having higher HCG levels and higher hormone levels. And so things really start becoming more difficult. The baby also grows a lot, so you can experience pain and cramping. So my morning sickness became unbearable. I was sick all the time, nauseous. I feel like a big one for me is like, I'll be nauseous and I'll be very hungry, and then I try to eat, and then I eat and feel better, but also throw up afterwards and get very sick afterwards. So it's like, after eating is a trigger for me. After I take my daily medicine, I seem to have an upset stomach and get sick. Just like a very uneasy feeling. So the nausea really, really started becoming unbearable around week 8. I spent a lot of days in bed. like crying, upset, like this is so bad, this is so hard. So I went and looked at my packet that my doctor had given me, and they had given me several items to help with the morning sickness. So I'm going to share those with you right now because I think you really should start taking them as soon as you feel like you can't handle it anymore. The first one is, this is a sleep aid, and this is doxylamine. I think this is Unisom is what they call it. This is just like the generic brand at Walmart. This is very inexpensive. So this is a sleep aid, but what it does, it's if you take 25 milligrams at night, not only does it help you sleep, which is helpful in pregnancy, but it actually helps with some sort of a nausea reflex in your body. It's an antihistamine that apparently kind of takes away that nausea reflex. So you're just not as prone to throwing up or getting nauseous. I actually think this has helped significantly. So now I just take this like nightly as a precautionary measure, just one. It's safe and it's like, why not take it? And I'm hoping that as I get closer to my second trimester, these symptoms will, decimate some where I don't need to take all this medicine. But like right now, I needed something to help me function, and I couldn't do it without it. But since being on these little tricks and medications, I've kind of been able to get my life back. There for a couple weeks, I was like, I can't go anywhere, I can't drive because I'm too sick to drive a car. Like that's how it felt. And it just hits you out of nowhere. It's like being on a boat in the ocean and just being unbalanced. Like that's what it feels like. It just hits you out of nowhere. It's hard to explain to people. It's also hard to hide because when you're in your first trimester, you're not telling people that you're pregnant. I've been going to family functions for the holidays and having to like hide the fact that I'm about to throw up. So it's very difficult to be pregnant before you tell people. All right, another item that has significantly helped me, and this is pregnancy safe. I did confirm this with my OB. This is morning sickness relief gummies. You can get these at Kroger, pharmacy, Target, on Amazon. They're like $10. So these are gummies. They don't taste that bad. I was worried about how they would taste because we're already feeling nauseous. But these have vitamin B6 and ginger in them. They don't taste that bad at all. And what this does is like temporarily helps relieve morning sickness and nausea. So you can take up to 4 of these a day. I usually take one in the morning. And then if I start feeling kind of bad, I may take another one. I just take it as it comes. I don't think I've ever taken 4, but I think I have definitely taken at least 3. But the good thing about 4 a day is like you can take one in the morning, midday, afternoon, night, like if you need to. And it's harmless. It's just simple vitamins that somehow have a positive impact on bringing down that nausea feeling and symptoms. So I actually think these work really well. And I was really glad to find something that helped me. And the last thing that I do, there's honestly not much you can really do about it. You kind of just have to ride it out, is I purchased these on Amazon. These are seasick bands, which people buy these for cruises, for airplanes, and pregnancy. And I think they really work. I bought a 6-pack for like $8, which I found was a lot cheaper than buying like one pair at Walmart. I was like, I can buy like a 6-pack on Amazon with different colors. And so how this works is like acupuncture pressure point on your wrist, and it just kind of applies a consistent pressure, and it's really supposed to help with your nausea. So I put these on in the morning, usually keep them on throughout the day, especially if I have to go somewhere or work or need to, be present somewhere. Nobody knows what they are, and they just kind of help you feel a little bit of a peace of mind to deal with your nausea. So those are the items that I have been using to help me with my morning sickness, and I really feel that all of those together are a great combination to help you. So I would definitely try these. They're inexpensive, and you'll feel like I'll do anything to feel better and try to just feel normal. And again, I still throw up with these. I still have moments of nausea. It's not going to totally make it go away, but at least it can make it manageable where you might have more moments of goodness and less moments of the nausea. And it does come in waves, and it does pass. And my advice to you would be just lay down. Like if you're starting to feel really, really bad, just lay down and try to let it pass. And like usually within 30 minutes, it'll just kind of pass for me. Sometimes I drink water. That can help a lot. Some women eat gummy worms. I have gummy worms. I love gummy worms, sour gummy worms. Putting something sour, candy in your stomach somehow helps with the stomach acid. And so, yeah, those are some of my tips about morning sickness. And never go on empty stomach. Like never let yourself get too hungry. That's a big no-no. That will cause you to be very sick. So let's talk about some other triggers or symptoms in the first trimester for me. I have some bad heartburn, which really started around this week 12, 11 or 12. And there's another medication that to help with this, which is also pregnancy safe, and that is a Pepcid or antacid reliever. This is called famotidine. This is also over the counter at Walmart, very inexpensive. You can just take one, and honestly, it helps so much. The other day, I had like this overwhelming heartburn that made me feel like I was literally burning from the inside out. I did some research. Heartburn is really common for where I'm at in my first trimester with the stomach changing and the progesterone and all that. And so I just take one of these whenever that comes on, and this really helps with the heartburn or the acid reflux at night. Sometimes sleeping with like 2 pillows will help with that. So definitely have this on site for you as well, because in those moments you really need some help. Okay, another symptom is constipation. This is very common for women in their first trimester, constipation and gas. I personally do not have constipation. I'm actually on metformin treatment for my PCOS in pregnancy, and I have shared in previous videos about how it can cause some gastrointestinal issues, mainly related to like diarrhea. So that's one of the big side effects of metformin for pregnant patients or patients that are trying to conceive with PCOS that are on metformin. And I'm happy to say that now that I am pregnant, my bowel movements are more solid, and I'm not having any more diarrhea from the metformin. So I actually feel like that's a win. And I did talk to my doctor about like how I've seen a difference in my bowels. So for me, it's a win. For other women, I can see how constipation could be an issue, because it definitely did change for me. And then gas, I do wake up sometimes in the middle of the night with gas, and that's never comfortable. But I do think that's a normal pregnancy symptom. I haven't really had very many headaches, which is nice. I know some people do, especially with the rising estrogen. I'm also on estradiol, estrogen supplements in my first trimester, but I have not struggled with headaches like some women with estrogen struggle with headaches. That has not been a symptom for me yet. Going back to morning sickness, one of the hardest parts of the day is brushing my teeth. I don't know what it is about brushing your teeth or that gag reflex that happens, but almost every time I brush my teeth, I'm throwing up or gagging. It's awful. I hate that part of pregnancy. It's like brushing your teeth is so hard. I've heard that from a lot of women. Let's talk about smells. So there's only been a few smells that have really gotten me this time. Chicken, like chicken that is cooked, like a rotisserie chicken or something. I could just throw up smelling that. The garbage, like if I get a whiff of the garbage, just certain things that my husband will cook to eat, I'm like, what is that? So those smells are getting me. It's like meat smells, but really I haven't had a ton of smell aversions this time. Last time I had a lot of smell triggers, but not really this time. Then another thing I was going to share, which I didn't expect this at all, but things come up in pregnancy that you don't expect in the first trimester, is high pulse rate. So women that are pregnant, are pumping 50% more blood throughout their body to support their pregnancy. So their heart has to pump faster, pump harder, and your pulse will be higher. My resting pulse is much higher in pregnancy, and then my pulse actually walking and stuff is much higher. So how I found this out was I went to my OB appointment, and I was walking throughout the hospital all the way. It was a very long walk, like 10 minutes. And they sent me, as soon as I got up to the desk, they took me right back to his, to meet with him, and took my pulse immediately, like with a pulsometer. And my pulse said 125. And the nurse is like, why is your pulse so high? That's alarming. And he's like, you should be like having a resting pulse rate. And I was like, well, actually, I just walked at least 10 minutes from the parking lot up in here, up the escalator, and you walked me straight in here. I haven't sat down in over 10, 15 minutes. And I've been walking this whole time. So I'm pretty sure that's why my pulse is high. And she's like, okay, but we need to check on the baby. So then that got me really scared. They checked on the baby. The baby was fine. But I asked my OB, I said, why is my pulse higher? So now I've been paying attention to it. And he told me that your pulse is higher when you're pregnant. And I also think that I have something called white coat syndrome, because I've noticed now that my pulse is very high going into the doctor or preparing for an ultrasound because I'm anxious. So I have this nifty little pulsometer that we bought back during COVID, and I just check about once a day to give myself a peace of mind. I also have the Apple Watch, which will notify me if it's in a dangerous level of heart rate and I'm not actively moving or exercising. But this is nice too. So like for right now, it says my pulse is like 105. And so that is like a higher resting pulse right now. I am sitting here actively talking on this video and like probably a little out of breath from talking. But like that's a very high rate for someone who's sitting still. And typically my resting rate is around 87 or so, 87, 90. I don't know. I usually run in that area. I have a little bit higher pulse in general, usually, but it's never that high. So I talked to some ladies on my Facebook group, my support group, that are with my doctor, and they've said similar things like my pulse is always high when I go in. And I think after you've struggled with recurrent loss, you go into the doctor, you're terrified. Ultrasounds are really triggering. Like I had an ultrasound this morning at 12 weeks and my pulse was so high. I was trying so hard to bring it down in the waiting room, but I couldn't because I was so anxious. And then I talked to my doctor about it because it concerned me. And I told him about what happened. The other day I was at a funeral. Someone passed away tragically, and we were at the graveside, unfortunately. And I got a notification on my Apple Watch that my heart rate was too high, and it didn't look like I was exercising. So that scared me because I'm pregnant. And I realized that I was so upset in that moment of being at that environment of where I was at the funeral, that my anxiety was causing my heart rate to go up and be really, really high. So in that moment, I just took deep breaths, tried to get it back down and regulate it. And I've never gotten that notification again. But I did tell my OB about it, and I know it was a circumstance of that event, which is really sad. And it just shows you that like emotionally things affect us. So if you're feeling really anxious going into your doctor's appointments or ultrasounds, just know that your pulse might be high. But I watch it every day and it fluctuates back and forth. Right now it says 98 beats per minute. So anything in that range I'm okay with. And then when I go to walk and stuff, it can get up to like 125, 130. I think that's okay. It's just another example of like your body's just really working harder in pregnancy. And also an example not to overdo it in terms of exercise, because you're already exerting so much. You don't really have to do that much. Like if I go walk, I'm already, going to be having a really good heart rate. So walking is enough for us. So that's what I'm telling myself. Like walking is enough of a good exercise for me. So just know that about your pulse. And if you have one of these or an Apple Watch, just, pay attention to it. Some women struggle with high blood pressure in their first trimester. I have not so far. That is something my doctor encourages me to check once a week with my protocol and medication. My blood pressure was perfect at the doctor. It was just my pulse that was too high. So again, just a side effect of pregnancy. My doctor again said, totally normal. You're pumping so much blood. He said, but if you're sitting still and you're getting a notification that your heart's too fast from your Apple Watch, which I think that goes off at like 145 beats per minute, or you're getting you're feeling like your heart is just racing when you're not doing anything, let me know. We can check your heart out. But that has not happened at all. And also, we checked on the baby. The baby's fine. The heart rate is good. So even though I'm having some higher pulse, the baby's fine. The heart rate is very normal and good. So that reassured me as well. Like, it didn't impact the baby, but just something to think about and something that I didn't prepare for. But again, pregnancy is like, you can never know what you need to prepare for. So much can happen. And every pregnancy is different and every person has unique symptoms. So that's the majority of the first trimester symptoms that I've had. Again, I am 12 weeks. I am hopefully coming out of like the peak HCG, like really hard weeks. I'm praying that second trimester is easy. Again, I think morning sickness has been the worst, and the fatigue, just tired constantly. But I try to remind myself, if you feel tired, your body's telling you, you need to rest. A lot of cramping, especially early on. I've had more cramping around week 11 and 12 as things are growing. Once your baby gets to be around week 9, they start like almost doubling in size weekly. They start just from week 9 to week 12 is this huge growth. So I try to attribute that to some of the cramping that I've felt, or maybe my subchorionic hemorrhage resolving with some of that cramping. But there can just be a broad spectrum of symptoms that you can experience. And every single pregnancy is different, because this pregnancy has been so different than other pregnancies. And I just want to say, if you're not having symptoms, that's okay. Not every woman has these symptoms, and they come at different times. You may not have any in your early pregnancy, and it pops up really aggressively at the end of your first trimester, like for me. I've also known people who just have no symptoms, and not even hardly know that they were pregnant, which is impossible for me to believe, because it's so obvious to me that I've been pregnant. Like I literally, there's no way to hide it. And then also, like, just breathe. If you have a day where you feel better, don't panic that your pregnancy has failed or is ending, because there's been several days when I have felt better or had long stretches of not feeling tired or not feeling nauseous, and it scares you. You're like, is something wrong? Why am I not cramping anymore? Why am I not nauseous? Why am I full of energy? And you just start feeling all of these moments of anxiety about that, but that doesn't mean a thing. You cannot symptom track your pregnancy, because every week that I show up, the baby's fine, the baby's growing, the baby's healthy, and none of my worry or any of my symptoms have ever equated to the baby. So like, I've just had to remind myself, the way that I'm feeling, the way that the symptoms I'm having has nothing to do with the baby growing and developing. And nor does the amount of worry that I put into it have any impact on it. So just know, I hear that so often. I'm not having any symptoms. Is something wrong? I haven't had any symptoms today. And then like, as you transition out of your first trimester and you start feeling better, which I've kind of already had a few better days. I don't know if it's my medicines I'm on, or if it's like me coming out of the first trimester, but I'm already starting to feel weird about the fact that I'm feeling better. But actually, I'm excited to feel better. So that's my overview of first trimester pregnancy symptoms, how my first trimester has gone, things that have helped me. It's been really rough. It's very rough to feel all of these things, to still be a wife, an employer, work at work, and keep a normal life. And also, like, people don't know you're pregnant yet, so you're feeling all these crazy things, but having to hide it from the whole world. It's really hard. First trimester's hard, but I don't blame you for keeping your pregnancy a secret, because we have as well, and we plan to share as we go into our second trimester. But you're going to get through it. And just remember, all of those symptoms are your body changing, your baby growing and developing. Something really beautiful and magical is going on in your body. Things are changing really quickly. There's so much growth, even just in the first trimester. Actually, your baby develops all of its major organs and all of its major body systems and limbs and everything like that in that first trimester. So that is why you have a huge amount of symptoms. Like that is the reason. And that is why it's a very critical time in your pregnancy. So just take care of yourself. Make sure you eat well. Try to eat a nice, well-balanced diet. Drink water. Take your prenatal vitamins. Take your morning sickness gummies if you need them. Any protocols that your doctor has you on. Make sure you're getting good sleep. And if you can, just walk some. Just get your body moving a little bit. It's very good for your mental health and your emotional health and your physical health. All right, well, thank you all for watching this video about my first trimester symptoms, how I've dealt with everything, and hopefully some helpful tips to help you along the way. I'll be back with another video about my second trimester and hopefully my third trimester to share with you the differences and things that help me along the way as well. Would love for you to follow my channel, Life with Everyday Haley, like and subscribe. I'll be back with you more shortly and hope you have a very blessed day.